And we're live. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good morning or evening wherever you are. As I'm sure you can tell, I just woke up. I was up pretty late last night because the markets were pretty crazy. They still are crazy. So we're gonna go over everything. Yeah, no FOMO, definitely not. But let's just go over a few things. I haven't checked any of the updates relating to the news and the COVID situation with the new virus in Africa. So we'll check the news. So it'll be kind of just a chill, video. We'll go over everything together. If you have questions, let me know. But yeah, we've had some pretty big moves, which are surprising not considering the news, because the new variant could be worrisome, but it's Thanksgiving, it's a bank holiday in the States, so there's thin liquidity, thin volume, and we're still getting a lot of movement. So I really wanted to take a look at Forex Live here. They were sharing some insightful things regarding the virus. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it's been 2 suspected cases in Belgium, so that is not great. First European country to detect the strain. So really the question is, it's very, very new, and we've gone down this road before with other variants, and they didn't turn out to be as bad as the market initially anticipated. So that's the question. How serious is it going to be? And is this going to carry over, or is it going to be short-lived? Honestly, there's been more carryover than I was expecting. I thought that we'd get that initial reaction late Eastern Standard Time, late last night, and then throughout the night the move would kind of fade. That did not happen. So let's see here. Okay, so the new COVID-19 variant from South Africa is stealing the show in markets today as fear emanates across all asset classes, and a classic day of flight to safety. So that is why we're seeing, the yen strengthen a lot, and just a total risk off Aussie, New Zealand dollar very weak. So if you're a little bit newer to trading and you don't know how each currency moves, do a little bit of research. This is an absolute classic textbook case. The WHO is currently deliberating if the latest strain is to be deemed a variant of concern, as many countries are already taking precaution and tightening border controls with the southern African region throughout the day. The negative reception is weighing heavily on equities, with European indices at one point, they were down 4% across the board. But there's not a let-up. There's no let-up in the bond market. The shove lower in yields is putting the yen in pole position in the major currencies, with UJ sinking from 114 to 113. Yeah, so as we can see, yen is definitely strengthening. Swiss franc is also benefiting. Big drop in Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. The loonie is the biggest loser. Love being Canadian. From 1.2710. Oil prices were crushed. So that's it. That they were saying last night, Adam, who owns this, he's Canadian, Forex Live, great website, that the easiest way to trade this would be oil, because COVID has really had a strong correlation. COVID fears have had a really strong correlation with oil prices. So if we just take a quick look at oil, wow, we're down 5%. So it's pretty nuts. Maybe I should have just hopped on this trade. Obviously I didn't take this buy or anything. But yeah, so oil's down big time, and therefore the Canadian dollar is going to be down massively as well. WGI, there might be some let up in the rout amid thinner market conditions. So this is exactly what I was thinking we would get last night. We'll see if the move carries over today, but it's going to be very thin liquidity with the holiday. So who knows? Expect the heavy risk sentiment to prevail until the close. So that's the news. It doesn't look like there's anything new in regards to the virus. EU to propose to activate emergency brake to stop air travel from Southern Africa. Not great news. Singapore to restrict arrivals. And then this one is big too, the fact that it's in Europe already. I mean, it's going to spread no matter what they do, just like we've seen with all of the other variants. So we need to be very aware of this. Okay, see if you guys have any questions with that. Hey Dan, hey Robert, thanks for tuning in guys, I appreciate it. So let's take a look at some of the setups that I saw that I took that honestly did not work out. I always want to be as transparent as possible with you guys. You know, I often say I'm not an expert. I'm at like level 4, and I'm helping you guys that are, you know, at a level below, and helping you guys and talking about what I'm doing also really just helps me improve my own trading. So there were a couple of losses that did take place, and so we'll go over them together as to whether or not I made any mistakes or if the risk was worth taking. So we'll start off on GA. Was it GA or GN? It was GA. So I took a short on GA, which was running about 25 pips, and then the remainder closed at break even. So of course it was not this key level here. The short was right here. So if we zoom out onto the daily, we've got a double fib. So we've got the fib from the major high, make that red, and then we've got the 61 fib from this high here, and the 100 EMA on the daily. So pretty nice setup, and I had a stop loss of 30 pips, and my TP was 30 pips, and unfortunately we did 25, and then we moved to break even, and so that is kind of frustrating. You can see the price action here on the 1 hour. We were starting to get kind of a nice dip, and then we pushed higher. So I got break even on that one. My entry was really solid. Should I have taken 25? I don't know. I think that's for you to decide. I said to myself, you know, I'm just going to let it hit either my stop loss or my take profit or break even. I don't want to touch it. My thought was that with the thin liquidity and thin volume, we weren't going to get a carryover in the move. It's hard to predict, you know, how serious the news is. Your guess is as good as mine. Nobody really knows what's going to unfold, but I just thought the time of day, the time of week, that often we see a big spike at that time of day, and then overnight it kind of reverses a bit. So that was my bias, and it didn't quite work out. So break even on that one. It was a strong setup though, so it is what it is. The next one that I took at the same time was GCAD, and GCAD turned out to be a loser. Not as strong of a setup as GA, but again, it was a good entry. I was running, you know, about 15 pips, and then the news just continued to, you know, dominate the price action. So the setup was this 38 fib, so a little bit more of a 4-hour setup. So this 38 fib, and we had these two moving averages here. We had this trend line retest, and we also had a pretty nice Q level. I'll put the horizontal line for you guys, and then if we look on the daily, you see we got some nice wick touches here as well. It's about 1.692 area. This we broke through a bit. I had a really nice touch here. So the strong key level. So those were my confluences. I was confident in the trade, but with oil getting obliterated, the Canadian dollar suffered, and this guy did not work out. So that is GCAD. If you guys have any questions with any of these setups, let me know. GJ is down 1.07%. So again, classic risk off. Let's check out, yeah, it's just dropped a lot. Let's check EJ. EJ hasn't dropped as much as GJ, which I find interesting, especially since the variant has been found in Belgium. So that might be just because of thin liquidity. The market hasn't quite moved yet, but it's at a major support here. We just haven't broken this yet. And I mentioned last Friday that we would really need to watch any COVID lockdowns and fear, with Australia announcing, with Austria announcing lockdowns, that we were going to need to watch this very closely. And we haven't broken this support. We're at like a 4, we're past a triple bottom, we're at a 4 bottom. So we've got that. I was still looking for this retracement at the 38, but yeah, classic risk off. The Nikkei is down over 3%, so really some strong moves. US 30 down 2.29%. Really some big drops. Like, that's very significant with US stocks, so I'm not interested in taking any of these. If anything, I would have been looking at this area here, but that's not, that's past, and it's not something I really would have taken. I don't trade the US 30 that often. We got this major support here. I think ultimately this is going to be a buy the dip scenario, because we're at such a, I don't want to say a cool time, because it's, the market doesn't love this, but we're at such an interesting time because central banks are starting to hike rates, and if we have a new variant that vaccines don't really protect from, things are going to get nuts pretty fast. Now, that's not what I'm saying is going to happen. It's just kind of a worst case scenario situation. If this does have a high transmissibility, if it can kind of evade vaccines, the market is going to move a lot, and we're at a point when central banks are not looking to add more stimulus. They're looking to take away stimulus. So are they going to do a total 180, or are they going to kind of remain the same? Again, we've seen this before, and it didn't really turn out to be as bad as some people were predicting. With the Delta variant, I remember when it was first kind of announced and the markets moved a lot, but it's been okay, and the vaccine still helps with that. So pretty crazy. You guys have any questions so far? No, we're good to go. Perfect. Let's bring this back up. Okay, so the other setup that I had was on Euro New Zealand. And this one was also a loss. So the two losses that I took was break even on GA, and then the two losses were in GCAD and EN. So EN was a fair distance from my entry when I went to bed. It was about 50 pips or so. And as you can see, in order to have this trendline confluence, I would have needed a wider stop. Obviously, I wasn't predicting, the market to hit it as soon as it did. But it is what it is. So we'll look at the confluences. So we have, this guy is not supposed to be there. So we've got this fib here. So from here to here, 50 fib. We've got this 100 EMA on the daily. And then this major high was a 38 fib. So very similar to GA, actually. And so we've got those three, it was also 1.65, so it's the round number, key level. So really a solid setup, and we just broke through it. Let's check the price action. Yeah, as you can see, we stopped a little bit here, and then boom, we just flew right through it. So a little bit unfortunate there. My stop loss was 45 pips, so I did give it a little bit more breathing room. It is reacting to this trend line, but it is done. Let's see if EA was lining up anywhere. EA would have been at this kind of key level area. This was 38 and 50 fib. Yeah, I didn't take this. Something to go back for GA that is worth mentioning. I was looking at this sell area here. You can see it on the daily. We've got the moving averages. If we look at GN for that added confluence, with GN in any area of a resistance or a short, and we had, first of all, we had all of these daily moving averages, which is just nuts. The 800, which it usually reacts basically to the pip on, and then on top of that, if we go on the weekly, we've got all of these moving averages. So if it wasn't for the news, I don't see why or how GN could not have dropped a little bit more significantly than it did to this area. We got a drop a few days ago, right? Like, we got a little drop here, which did a few pips, maybe like 50 pips or so. 60, 70 pips. So yeah, we got a small drop, but nothing in the size that you would expect for such strong confluences. So we did have that lining up for GA, which gave me the confidence. Again, if you saw my Instagram, I posted the entry. Super nice entry. it was up 25 pips, and then it just moved to break even. So I don't know if I should have closed it at break even, or I don't know if I should have closed at 25 pips. Maybe I got greedy. It was working well, so I just left it. You guys can let me know what you think about that, but that's basically the setup. Let's take a look at gold. Chart's looking a little messy. So gold's up 1.9%, so kind of a safe haven flow. What I find interesting is that the US dollar is not moving higher. We're seeing the risk off flows into the yen, into the Swiss franc, but we're not seeing it into the US dollar, which I find really interesting. And so gold's moving up. You know, gold is a safe haven, but gold also acts as a risk asset. So that's when it can get a little bit complicated with fundamentals, because you would think gold goes up in times of concern, which it does. However, if we were to look on 2020, right here, March 2020, you can see the weekly candle was super bearish, right? We dropped like thousands of pips. And again, you would think, why is this? Gold is a safe haven. Shouldn't have gold immediately gone up when COVID first hit? And you would think that, but really it's because everyone was flowing into the dollar. And then this move reversed. This was late March, so this is probably when they started to announce stimulus. And then the dollar dropped and gold flowed higher. So it works both ways. It is obviously a safe haven, but it does also act as a risk asset. And so we've seen today kind of the opposite of the initial move that we saw when COVID first hit. We're moving higher. So very interesting. I'm surprised that we're dropping as much as we are, especially because people are flowing out of stocks. And when you sell your stocks, you have to go into dollars. And so typically when we see a strong stock sell-off, we'll see a strong flow into dollars, and then it'll go up accordingly. So a little bit weird. I want to take a look at Bitcoin actually, just to see how it's reacting to this news. So we're down. This is a daily chart. I don't look at Bitcoin often, but I think it's interesting to look how it reacts to major news. We've got this trend line coming up. We're basically on it. Check the weekly. So we're at 54,000. So again, really close to all-time highs. I haven't looked at this in a while. Highest we went was 63 or so, so we've dropped a fair bit. Not a fair bit, we've dropped a little bit. So very interesting. We'll go back to gold. So gold's obviously reacting to those weekly moving averages. Right here. So let me get rid of these areas, because these were the areas that I took earlier on in the week that I've gone over extensively. And of course now, as I said, I bet this could potentially be the start of what I said would be a huge bull run. Now that everybody's gotten stopped out, not many retail traders are long still, you know, we could see that bull move. So we draw a fib from here. I know this one kind of gets invalidated because we did break it. We didn't close below the 61 on the weekly, so I will just extend it. Okay, so we're bouncing from the 50 here with these moving averages. Interesting. Let's move it up a bit to this area here. Bouncing right off the 61 with that moving average. This is 1780. That could have been something to take. We hit it a few days ago. From this low here, let's just check, did we break at any point? Yeah, so here we bounced from the 50, so almost the 61 that it touched, and the market reacted well to it, so we can extend it here. And yeah, the 61. So we're bouncing from this. Not something that I took, especially with the other pendings I had set, but this is something you guys could have looked at, especially since it's just below these moving averages, and since we didn't react to these moving averages, everybody got stopped out here, and then institutions can take it higher because of it. So I have seen that happen before. It's really annoying if you take the buy before, but it's really interesting if you wait and you take it at the 61 and it works. So we'll have to look at daily closes for all of these pairs, because the weekly closes will dictate the daily closes will dictate the weekly closes, and that is going to dictate most likely what's going to happen next week. Let's take a look at Forex Live again, see if there's any new updates. Still 2 suspected cases in Belgium, nothing new. I was going over with a student yesterday fundamentals, and one tool that I showed him that I used to use, I don't really use it very much anymore, but I might start again, is TweetDeck. So TweetDeck is really a good, interesting platform that you can use. So basically what you have, let me get rid of these. Basically what you create is these different columns. Somebody recommended this to me, and so you have a Twitter account and then you use TweetDeck, it's free, and you create these columns. So I have one for central banks, one for analysts, one for breaking news, and one for other, and these are being constantly updated. Let me just refresh it just in case. And so you have different platforms like Financial Source. It's like a Reuters platform. So it's a trading terminal. So it's $97 a month, so it's expensive. I haven't used it. They might have like a half month off for your first month, or a trial period, 1 week trial perhaps, and it's really good. I had a friend who was using this. He would send me a few things, and the way they break down major news events is amazing. It's so easy to understand. It's really, really good. So if you're new to trading but you're serious and you want to really get into fundamentals, this could be a worthwhile investment. Forex Live, what they share is the same as Financial Source, but they don't break it down in as much detail and as easy to absorb. But what I'm trying to say is that these guys are very fast, but TweetDeck is actually just as fast. So you have analysts working around the clock, and they will tweet out as soon as news comes out, sometimes even faster than these paid services. So you can use this for free. You won't get the same depth of analysis or detail, and it might be harder for you to understand what they're saying, but with practice, if you're not willing to pay the $97 a month, with a little bit of time and effort, it's totally worth it. So let's just see the analyst if there's anything. So Germany's health minister says we need to stop the COVID wave now. Let's just scroll through a little bit. So Fauci says that he doesn't yet know if new variant will be resistant to current vaccines. No indication that new variant detected in South Africa is already in US. That was on a CNN interview 20 minutes ago. Again, the 2 suspected cases in Belgium. So if confirmed, Belgium will become the first European country to detect the strain. Okay, check analysts, what they're saying. Sometimes what they share isn't the most high value, but yeah. Equities down sharply, true. JPY skyrocketing, true. Oil sharply lower, true. Crypto, a sea of red. COVID is officially back on the agenda. Yes, sir. Mark, that is true. Yeah, they're calling it the new variant, NU, so it's a little clever. It's a big deal. Next few trading sessions should be heavy by all logic. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the chat section. Go over. Hey, Kev, thanks for tuning in. Gabriel. So I know you're not taking USD trade, but I placed a pending at the 1.28 area for a short, and I would like to have your opinion. What on EU, Gabriel? What pair? I can check that. USDCAD. Okay, we can check. We can take a look at USDCAD. Without even looking at the chart, you know, I know it's moving a lot higher with oil. USDCAD, and your short was on 1.28. 1.28. Okay, yeah, I saw other traders looking at this area, and it's a good key level. Don't get me wrong, it is not a bad key level. We don't really have this trend line, maybe we could wick through it. The problem with this area, in my opinion, is that we have already used it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and we haven't made a new low in relation to this low, meaning that there's no new fib that we could draw. So you would be taking this solely based on that it's a round number, it's a key level, but you'd really just be hoping for a 4th top, like not a triple top, but a 4th top. So for me, it's not something I would take just because the confluences aren't strong enough, and every time we do have that weekly moving average, which is actually pretty nice. That's a new confluence. The key level is very strong. What I would say is we need to look at oil to see what's going on there. So it's strong for sure, or 1.28. The move, it's moving a little bit now, which you wouldn't want. You'd want to see the straight move, like it's reacting to the trend line. It's a tricky one. Let's take a look at oil, because if we want USD-CAD to drop, we want the CAD to strengthen, and so we want oil to bounce up. So is there any kind of extra confluence? If we could have, this is the weekly, let's go back to USD-CAD. Weekly, so I don't think this is going to happen. But if you could get 1.28 at the same time as the 61 fib, sorry, this is US 30. As you guys can tell, I'm a little tired. Here we go. So, ideally, in a perfect world, you would have 1.28 on USD-CAD hit at the same time as the 61 fib and weekly 800 EMA, which is super, super, super strong. And so this would provide a bounce for oil, and in turn would strengthen the CAD and drop USD-CAD. So this would be the confluence that I would want. Let's take a look at the DXY. Is there any kind of resistance? So this move that we're seeing here on the weekly isn't super ideal. I mean, we are dropping. So at this point, you know, the DXY is going to hit a support level and move higher, especially based on the trend. And that's not going to work well for your trade. You would want the DXY to be pushing towards 1.97, which it did, the round number, or this fib here. Ideally, you'd have 1.28 hit at this area. So that's not to say the move isn't going to happen. That weekly moving average is honestly really nice. But the area has been tested 4 times. With the news, especially, it's just a little bit risky for me. So I would not take that setup. But then again, you know, I took GA and GCAD last night after some major news and got burned. So your guess is as good as mine. It could totally work, but that's just kind of my thinking behind it. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, Kev, I saw that you sent me this trade. So yeah, the confluences, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. If you have a different opinion, you know, share it, because maybe I'm seeing something. Maybe you're seeing something that I'm not seeing. Very nice key level. You know, we're bouncing a bit from that trend line, but yeah, let me know if you see something else, or if you don't agree with what I said. Let's chat about it. DDOT Dre TV, how do you feel about gold? We did just go over gold a little bit. You know, this is the daily. We're gonna be stuck right in between these moving averages, so we need to either have a clean break from here, or a clean break to either end. So super interesting. I've been chatting with a guy in Montreal, really nice guy, Roberto. If you're watching, I hope you're doing well. And he's been doing really, really well trading gold. Super impressive. And he has he remains bullish for the December bull run, but thinks that, if I understand correctly and remember correctly, that we're going to drop a little bit more before we get the bounce. If we look at the most major support level that we have, like, what do we really want to make sure we don't miss? Let's look on the weekly. It's the most major upcoming support that we have. Let me draw this fib again. Let's see where the 78 is. Okay, the 78 is right here at 1720. Very nice key level. We've got this 61 though, with the key level as well at 1755. Also a good key level. So I think this is what I would be looking at. 1755. And so 61 fib, 1755, and we could potentially, this is a weekly, so we'll see how much this moves by the end of the week. So we could have that. Go on the daily. Where's this trend line lining up? We're not going to get the trend line, which is fine. Yeah, I like 1755. If we do drop like a rock, this would probably be the next area that I would be interested in. Key level. Other than that, we have 1700, which obviously is the round number, but it doesn't look like that area is super respected. We could drop all the way to 1675. So I'm not, like, on 1800, I was dead set on 1800. It was a really good level. 1700 is not quite as strong. So, I'll check with my gold guy and let you know what he thinks, because he's been doing well adding multiple positions and just catching both sides of the movement. So he needs to share with me his secrets. But yeah, 1755 is what I'm looking at in terms of a sell. This the daily. Again, we have to break the moving averages. We could look for some kind of retracement. This is our next key level at 1830. So, if we retest this area here, again, there's probably not enough confluences for me to take this trade. But that could be something, because we're clearly bouncing nicely from the 38, also a minor key level. So, yeah. Any more questions? I'm going to have a call at 8:15 with the new students. I'm going to have to catch off soon. Kev, you'll probably skip it. It's risky for sure. Yeah, I definitely need to be careful. Tough times for the verification, especially since, good lesson for everyone when you're traveling. It's a little bit tough to trade, and that was the setup on GN earlier this week, or the GA. I keep mixing them up. I can't even remember. So I think it was here on the 4 hour. We had those two setups. Yeah, we had this. So we had 1.94. I think we went over this earlier in the week. Yeah, this was it. So 1.94, and again, the lesson here is you need to have your pending at the first confluences, because we didn't hit 1.94, but 1.94 was like our last confluence. So we hit this fib, the 61 fib, and then we did drop a fair bit, and I think we hit a moving average as well. Yeah, and we hit this 100 moving average. So yeah, for those of you that don't know, yeah, his pending just missed, but he was traveling, and so it was difficult to watch and whatnot, and it was the start of the verification. So yeah, it's good to start the challenge with a winner if you can, but fortunately with the verification, there's 2 months to complete it. And if any of you guys have taken losses this week, I am with you. I've taken losses too. I haven't made money this week, so I'm gonna try and make a video that will come out tomorrow breaking down each trade that I took and the lesson to be learned. Again, I'm not an expert. We're learning here together, and especially with this news, it was kind of unexpected and nobody knows what's going to happen. So keep your eyes out. That should come out tomorrow. Any final questions? Yeah, GN. Thanks, Kev. Dan, thoughts on GN? 62 major fib, key level 1.96. GN 1.96. Yeah, it's coming up as I can see. .96. Let's extend this fib here. Yes, 1.96, looking very nice. Yeah, key level 61. You mentioned as well the 800 SMA on the daily and the weekly 100. So let's hop on the weekly. Yeah, that is very nice. I would take that. Yeah, that was Dan. Yeah, nice setup, Dan. I would take that for sure. As you can tell, I have been charting up and deleting my charts and doing them over and over again, which might not be the best thing because I didn't have this one marked up. But yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we're gonna hit that today. We'll see how many pips we are. Up 0.71, so we have started to move. We could get it. Could get it next week. We are 50 pips and we're 8 a.m. So New York hasn't opened, even though I don't even think New York is open today. So there could be thin liquidity. So we'll be a little bit careful here. But yeah, 1.96 is definitely solid. Yeah, agreed, Marks. Yeah, you don't see it a lot with Forex YouTube channels and stuff of sharing losses, but I take losses, especially this week. I've learned a lot. I've taken more trades than usual. I've probably taken 5 or 6 trades and I've had a bunch of break evens. I made a couple mistakes, like on my GCAD buy, it was 5 p.m. New York time and it was running about negative 15 pips, and then with the spread I got stopped out at negative 30 pips, and then I went to go see my closing price. I put the closing price in TradingView, and it didn't even hit that price. It was just with the spread, and I would have had an opportunity to get out at break even. So it's little things like that it's a good learning lesson for everyone. So yeah, I'll definitely go over those losses and be as transparent as possible. So I think that's going to be it for today's video. I have class in 4 hours, so if there is anything crazy coming up that we don't see any setups, I'll hop back on to another live, but that might be it for now. Keep your eyes out for that video coming out tomorrow about losses. It'll break everything down a little bit more tightly, a little bit quicker for each trade that I've taken. It'll be really helpful for me to go over everything in like a public trading journal, and hopefully it helped you guys out as well. So stay safe out there, both with obviously COVID and the markets. Things are pretty crazy. I'll post on my Instagram any updates on my story if there's anything crazy. I think 1.96 is the best setup that we have right now on GN. Thank you guys for watching. I always appreciate it. Dan, I hope you have a great day. Thanks to everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.